Let's talk about ethics and business. Ethics. How can we study ethics in strategic business leadership? Well, actually, if you do remember, this exam was formed out of two exams, and one of them was heavily about ethics. So, my time, we were supposed to actually challenge it. In this exam, it's not so much, but still, roots lie there. And consider this. Imagine that you run a company and you have shareholders that invested their money in this company. And you have contractors. You order manufacturing process from some third world country. So what should you do? Where does your ethics lie? Should you try to negotiate the lowest price that will be charged by this manufacturing company in order to give the most to shareholder because it is them who invested the money? So ultimately, you just operate with their money and you need to work for their best. Or do you need to give extra margin to this manufacturing plant that is located in a country with high unemployment rate because you want to for this plant to be able to provide decent salaries to its people, because you want these people from poorer country to have proper living, because you want to have contractor that doesn't work with child labor. So that is ethical question. And ultimately, there is no right or wrong. Well, yes, when we are talking about child labor and slavery, yes, well, this is wrong. But when we're talking about whether employees should get higher salaries for them to be treated fairly, or whether shareholders should have higher dividends, that is ethics. We are going to talk about corporate and social responsibility. So we need to understand that the company is should be acting as good corporate citizen. So it should care about the society and not only about its pocket. And we are going to talk about corporate governance. Corporate governance is how the companies are managed. And on one hand, it is about the best structure. So, for example, that we have to have a board and that the board should have non-executive directors, which means people that are hired from outside of the organization in order to do the job of oversight. But also, it is about ethics, because you see, the problem is that we have agency problem. Agent means that there is someone who is employed to do good for someone else who is the principal. And there is a problem that the goals could be different. Like imagine that you want to rent a house or buy a house and you hire a realtor. And imagine that realtor gets a percentage from house price. Your job, your goal would be to get the price as low as possible because you want to pay less. But the lower the price, the lower is the consideration that the realtor is going to get because it is dependent on the price of the house. So the realtor, on one hand, should work to give you the lowest price possible, but also they want it to be higher in order to get more money. That is the agency problem. So corporate governance is about organizing the work in order to reduce this agency problem, which could be achieved if we are going to make, let's say, remuneration slightly different. So if realtor would get compensation that is fixed. So these are strategic values, and we are going to talk about strategic management. Strategic management means that we need to think about strategic position. So we are going to analyze our current environment. We are going to apply models such as PASTEL, which means that we are going to look at six risk factors such as political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and law. We are going to talk about that in detail later. We are going to talk about strategic choices. So, how we choose the strategy that we are going to apply. And we are going to look at strategic action. So, we are going to talk about the implementation of the strategy. And when we are going to talk about that, we need to keep in mind these ethical values as well. So it is going to be an integral part. And one way to keep ethics at the core of the decisions of the company is to create a proper organizational culture, which is a pattern of shared basic assumptions considered valid and transmitted to new members. It has also been described as the way we do things here. Remember these movies about trade market, about Wall Street, and you would see that there are wolves there, and their culture would be, okay, we need to squeeze as much money as possible. Okay, we're going to let some people down. Yes, this is how the things are going to be done there. We are beasts. And there can be a different culture. Okay, we work as a team. Yes, we do compete, but we do compete against the market. And within our team, we try to support each other. We try to stand for each other. Okay, there could be another culture. We could say that, okay, we care about quality. We cannot tolerate team members to provide poor quality. We cannot tolerate ourselves not to work on quality. So this is about culture. And when we are going to talk about culture, we need to understand the model that is called cultural web. Cultural web is analysis that compares assumptions in an organization's culture with physical manifestation of the culture, of how the culture is translated into this real life. So let's have a look how it works. So we are going to have paradigm. We are going to say, okay, what is our culture? Well, we care about quality. We care about team. We care about competitiveness above all. Lovely. So there could be control systems in place. Okay, so what is that is measured? What is that is rewarded? So if the rewards are individual, then maybe the culture of being good team members is not really translated. If our rewards are based on revenues, then maybe quality culture is not very well translated. But if our managers are evaluated based on customers' loyalty, the percentage of returning customers, the customer satisfaction, then maybe control systems support our culture. We are going to talk about organizational structure. Organizational structure, it's about formal and informal relationships and hierarchical structure. So can we go to the manager and express our opinion or not? Or should we just do whatever we are told? If this is the culture that it really values standardization, that really values the follow-up of the existing processes and no changes are allowed like it happened in many banks, then probably we cannot go to a manager and ask them to change something. We are going to look at power structures. Power structures is about people that hold power in the organization. So this is not always based on who the top manager is. Sometimes there could be just professions that are going to exert significant power. So, for example, imagine that we have a pharmaceutical company and we have research and development department, and professionals there are the most powerful. So depending on the specifics of the company, power structure is going to be different. We are going to talk about stories and myths. So these are stories that are told so that outsiders, when they are recruited, they will know what are the key decisions. Like, oh, okay, so we had a team member like that, and they did that, and everybody was happy. Or no, and he was fired immediately, and so on. So these are stories and myths. There will be symbols like logos, like the way that we have our office designed. Well, for example, whether we have our office that is very, very, very strict, very parallel, perpendicular, and so on. And we understand that when we go to the building, well, we are going to follow the protocol. Or maybe it's a relaxed office with cozy chairs, with nice canteen, and so on to support the collaboration. It is about routines and rituals. So routines are the way the members of organization behave to each other and to those outside of the organizations. And rituals are important to the organization, regardless of whether they are formal. So, for example, the way that we recruit, that we make these very, very hard tasks, or that we care about the personality and how a person is going to be fit in this team. Induction processes. Induction means that when a person comes to a company, we explain to the person how everything works. Or informal, like, for example, board game evenings that are held every Friday, or some sports events. So these are routines. And yes, that is very different. So, for example, the company I worked for, well, we had a routine that would be shown in the emails we sent, that we would always say, okay, thank you for your work. I really appreciate that. And even now, when I work with that company, every time I get emails from them, I like, oh, yes, I do remember those values. And yes, they are different. They are very different, and you will notice that if you change companies, if you change projects. So that is what cultural VAB is. And it is important because as leaders, you would need to understand how this cultural VAB supports whatever you are going to do. And you have that listed just in case you need to go through that again. And you need to understand how the cultural map relates to organizational theory. So if the organization is not delivering the results of its management wants, management can use the map to try and think what is going on. Okay, so for some reason our company is not behaving the way that we would like. Let's think, what about our routines? What is the message that we are transmitting? How our office looks? Oh, maybe that's why our employees cannot come up with the ideas and we cannot boost the creativeness and teamwork. Maybe there is no canteen to boost the talk between different team members. Well, there was once an article about cooler. So there was a cooler. Oh, sorry, no, this was a cooler. Oh, there was printer. Yes. And there was a huge printer, and the people would gather around the printer to print their documents. And this was the place where they communicated with each other. But then they decided to get rid of this massive printer that was located on the floor and substituted by online printers and substituted by printers that were located at people's desks. And the communication stopped and the company started to show worse results. So yes, those printer talks are important. And we are going to analyze by looking at where is the organization now, where is the organization going to be, and we'll try to identify the gap between the two. And that is it. So you have this quick summary of whatever we have covered. And I hope that it was fun for you. And I will see you next. Bye.